Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us for tonight's edition of Wave Extra on a warm Friday, July 25th. What we're starting out with is the latest view that we can get from the KYTC camera network. If you're familiar with this curve, and I'm saying that literally, it's just a reminder since it is 8:05 tonight. Right now, part of Interstate 65, and this is Hospital Curve. Reminder, it is now closed so that construction crews can get the work done that they've been wanting to do for a couple weeks, had to postpone it for one weekend, but now with not a rain threat for them in sight, this is the opportune time to do it with, even the temperatures not being ideal, but at least a dry condition for them. So a reminder for you folks, maybe this is kind of a still frame that we are able to get at around, I want to say, quarter to 8. But as it presently is the time, 8:06, I-65 southbound right here on the curve, fully closed about a mile south of the Kennedy Bridge. So for drivers crossing over from Indiana, and maybe you're home already, but this is just to move around for the rest of the weekend, you're going to have to take either I-64 or I-71. The closure, again, it's going to last through 5 a.m. Monday morning. And from that point on, once we do hit 5 a.m. Monday to at least allow room for, the regular work traffic on Monday, one lane southbound here is going to remain open. So we can anticipate kind of a throttling effect, not much room to really go at the speed you want to, but we know construction crews and officials are saying that they're hoping to then open it fully back up sometime on Wednesday. So a reminder, should anything change and whenever things do start to pick back up again, because traffic in this part of the project is open, we will let you know as soon as we can. All right, let's bring you back into the studio as I take away that camera source. Always appreciate you spending part of your evening with us. I'm Jose Sosaya here in the Wave Now studios. Hopefully you had some time, maybe more time, let's say, indoors, but still a decent, productive day. Talk about hot temperatures. We're going to discuss some of that whenever we're going to get any kind of relief. Meteorologist Ryan Hoke is going to break that down for us if you stick around with us throughout the night on Wave News at 11. Looking short-term and long-term, hopefully, for any of this kind of relief. In fact, looking at the graphic down there, showing us what that temperature is looking like, 92 degrees, and we are 7 minutes past the 8 hour. So just worth noting, staying hydrated, staying cool as best as we can. All right, more stories for you as we're going through the evening, and I've got the list of things I wanted to consider. This is just something that I'm taking the dates down just because I know in a lot of conversations, you can imagine we have a lot of, parents, but it's a big discussion for school coming back within the next month. JCPS offering a pretty cool tool, let's say, or at least something that's handy for parents as we get to that point. And what I'm referring to is what's called the Bus Finder. Bus stop information, the district bus hotline that's going live Monday. You can call the number that's 485-RIDE. You can also visit what's called Bus Teller to stay up to date on your kids' transportation information before this first day arrives. So Bus Teller actually allows you to see your child's bus number, the stop location, and more or less the estimated pickup time for you in the morning and what the drop-off is going to be. Now, the hotline, reminder, that's 485-RIDE. If you have any questions, there's supposed to be someone there to take those calls should you have any. The first day of school for JCPS students is Thursday, August 7th. Of course, for any respective, separate in other county school districts, maybe it's a private school district for you all or a private school worth, again, time is better now to do it with some anticipation if you have those questions, just to call the people in the know so you can be as prepared as possible for what promises to be a busy day, to say the least. But certainly that's a tool for JCPS parents that we are aware of. And now, as we're looking ahead to what the kind of school support is going to be for this coming year. So JCPS, and I know this is an older video of former Superintendent Marty Pollio, but it's just some video I wanted to share with you. And this particular report, too, we discussed the need or the decision for the budget cuts. But tonight, JCPS responding after the Education Department said it was going to release billions of dollars in grant money to schools that at some point was being withheld, but that is no longer the case. The Trump administration says it's releasing these billions of dollars said to go to schools. There had been weeks of uncertainty for a lot of schools and educators relying on some money that would support English language instruction, adult literacy, other kinds of programs. But the administration If you remember, we perhaps had touched on that story earlier this month in July, suspending around $6 billion plus to review and ensure that the spending was aligned with policy priorities. The funding freeze, though, was challenged by several lawsuits. Some educators and members of Congress, it had bipartisan replies, were calling for the administration to release that money. And JCPS, we did get a statement from them sometime today. I want to read you part of the statement saying, quote, "The support allows JCPS to continue to challenge and engage each learner to grow through effective teaching and meaningful experiences within caring, supportive environments," end quote. So that is what we learned as far as that funding decision from the federal government to allow that for at least, JCPS and then going to other public schools and such. More stories for you this Friday evening. So if you remember when I'd come on a little early last night, just to share the update from LMPD, those partners that they had with the Jefferson County Sheriff's deputies. If you remember the SWAT standoff along Dixie Highway, deeper into Nelson Avenue, and we had learned SWAT officers have been there for quite some time trying to get a suspect out. In the end, they were able to arrest him, taking him into custody. And so this was all happening in Shively. We're told he's still behind bars. And today, part of our team went back there to the neighborhood where all this was going down to take a look at the damage that had to be done by the battering ram and the tools just to de-escalate and end the situation. And to that point, William Fry was wanted for skipping out on court, we learned, in a previous case. And so our Marissa Burke got an exclusive look inside of that house where SWAT officers were called to go and all the damage that was left behind.
William Fry faces 10 charges from what happened here Thursday night. I was able to talk to his wife, who was inside the home when everything happened. She did not want to be on camera.
William Fry's wife, Michelle, and his daughter, Jade, have been cleaning relentlessly. The front door and window are completely knocked out. Gates toppled over, all from Thursday night when police went to this home on Wamir Avenue to serve a warrant.
3 wanton endangerment charges pending, not having to do with the incident from yesterday.
Correct, and he was on a bench warrant from that case out of circuit court, which is why the officers went to his house to serve the warrant.
Michelle tells me she didn't know Fry was in the house when officers asked. Their knocks woke her up. She says it wasn't until she went back downstairs that she realized he was sitting in the dark in their basement. These are photos of the door Fry allegedly shot several rounds through as the SWAT team entered. He eventually surrendered after SWAT used tear gas and flashbangs. Fry now faces several felonies. He's charged with 6 counts of attempted murder of a police officer, 1 count of unlawful imprisonment, 1 count of terroristic threatening, 1 count of wanton endangerment, and 1 count of wanton endangerment of a police officer. Fry's family tells me Thursday's incident shows how much his mental health has declined over the past few years.
Is there a reason you're not working? Do you receive any sort of disability?
They say he suffered a brain injury 10 years ago. Since October, when Fry was arrested in the original wanton endangerment case, his family noticed him becoming more disconnected from reality. During his arraignment on the new charges, Fry entered a plea of not guilty.
William Fry's bond was set to $500,000 full cash HIP if posted. As part of his bond conditions, he's not allowed to have contact with his wife. His next court appearance is scheduled for early August. Marissa Burke, Wave News.
So we appreciate Marissa for that update. What I want to show you again is just some video right now. Take a look at the screen right there if you miss it really quick. Incredible video from our SkyTrack network, and this was in Bardstown. And if you remember when we learned that update, it was amazing and tragic now to see, because we've now learned the name of the man who was killed in that crash, bashing into the Nelson County Courthouse in Bardstown. It happened just after midnight. So heading into Thursday night. And again, the moment caught on our SkyTrack, the coroner identifying the driver as 36-year-old Michael Stiegel. I want to show you a bit of the damage video if we can move ahead to that. So this was the scene after the fact and after police were able to make sense of what happened with Steagle's body, removing most of the debris that was there. No one else was hurt in the crash, but you could see just the significant damage done to the courthouse, which was already needing to go through some major renovations, and now crews on top of that will have to figure out what needs to be fully repaired and replaced there. As for the cause of the crash, we're being told that is still an open investigation, and when we get any sort of update on that, we will surely let you all know on the many ways you can do that. Let you know about what had happened on the Wave News app, on wave3.com, all those different ways we get those push alerts and breaking headlines to you at a moment's notice as best as we can. All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break. Coming up, more stories for you. We're talking a deadline for anyone who suffered big storm damage this past April, and we're talking now less than 4 hours for that federal relief from FEMA. So just a reminder there, and some more stories. One crossing over, actually two crossing over the river to southern Indiana, involving Key Bridge, key piece of infrastructure getting the TLC it needs, and a bankruptcy hearing involving the ambulance service and agency that was wrapped up in the Jamie Knowles scandal. So that is coming up for you after the break tonight on Wave Extra. Welcome back, everyone, on this Friday, warm, feeling humid Friday evening. And here we're talking, hopefully you don't have to necessarily tackle the worst or the brunt of maybe some leftover storm damage from way back earlier in the spring. We remember what happened around April in these parts of Wave Country. But as a reminder, since it's 8/19 heading into Friday, talking about the weekend, if you still wanted time and had the time, those Kentuckians who suffered this kind of damage, you only have a few more hours for federal assistance from FEMA if you want to fix what was damaged from these April storms. So again, you're probably familiar with seeing these signs from FEMA, from the SBA. This is just the example of the site that was there in Jeffersontown. As a reminder, maybe you've been there before. Some sites have opened and closed depending on the demand that's popped up. But remember, those weather systems brought those strong straight line winds, the flooding, landslides to many parts of the states. And so that deadline, 11:59 tonight. You can find out more information on what you need to make sure you qualify, have all the materials you need for the application. We've had this in our reporting, in our stories all this time. Wave3.com, make sure you can, term search for things like FEMA, storm relief, application relief, that should be something that'll definitely help you if that's a question you still had at this point in the game. And so we'll certainly check in on that. All right, so moving from this kind of damage story when it comes to Mother Nature, now we're going to move on to another story. You've heard us check in from time to time over in southern Indiana, and in particular, a pretty controversial decisions of what to do and what not to do when it comes to the Blackiston Mill Dam. If you remember, 5 months after those floods damaged the mill back then, the bridge that carried traffic, all those cars, small but significant amount of traffic over the dam, it has reopened. We sent Wave News reporter Alina Noakes to go to New Albany, talk to drivers as they were kind of building this back into their routine, going back and forth across the bridge. We want to show you some of the images that she was able to share with us tonight. It's the day everyone, she says, has been waiting for. Everyone can now flow, traffic can flow nicely over the bridge. That does look nice and repaired. Based on our crew out there, they even saw some people double back to drive over the bridge twice. Some people, it seems, were literally celebrating as they were crossing over. Suffice it to say, for many of the drivers, 5 months was too long in New Albany. The biggest issue came from the partial dam collapse below the bridge in February that forced the closure. The choice was to remove or repair it, which was the costlier option. And the county ended up going the route of removing the dam and the repairs. Councilman Al Knable says the total cost on taxpayers after all was said and done was about $120,000.
Approach was shored up. The surface was repaved where it could be repaved. You notice there's still steel plates in place down there. And in order to, those basically functionally cover and maintain defects in the upper deck. To repair that upper deck and remove the steel plates would have been an extra $500,000.
An expensive investment there, to say the least. But the county decided against a total repair. They argue the new bridge is still on track to be complete by 2027 or 2028. So they need about 2 more years out of the existing bridge. That's what they're hoping to get. And Alina, learning and talking to county leaders, they want that because businesses on the other side of the bridge have been pretty hard by that lack of customers coming in due to the closure, some seeing their customer bases cut in half. So at least for homeowners, those store owners and store renters, happy news that things are, at least for now, seeming back to normal. So something we'll definitely keep an eye on and see how things, again, fall back into place for a lot of folks out in New Albany as it used to be. Now, staying on that side of the river in Indiana, another sort of chapter in the story, even after the fact, ex-Clark County Sheriff Jamie Knoll now in prison for the fraud committed through New Chapel EMS and the payments he would use to funnel all those other expenses personally. So today, attorneys, we saw them coming to federal court asking for bankruptcy protection for the ambulance company, the emergency services company that he had victimized that time. Wave News reporter David Mattingly did file this report saying there is a plan to dig this ambulance service out of debt.
Attorneys representing the EMS company formerly owned by Jamie Knowles seeks help from a federal judge to repair some of the damage left behind by the corrupt former sheriff. Down to just 8 full-time employees and 3 ambulances, New Chapel EMS is a shell of what it used to be when it provided full-time 911 services to 2 southern Indiana counties.
If you're making $1 million, you can buy a mansion. You can pay the mansion. You can afford the mortgage on the mansion. But then if you lose that $1 million a year job, you can't afford the mansion anymore. Now imagine a court says, but you've still got to pay for that.
Jamie Knowles stole millions from New Chapel to fund a lavish lifestyle, including more than 40 classic cars, some already sold at auction. New Chapel wants to sell the rest of those cars and about 20 ambulances it no longer uses to pay off the debts Knoll left behind.
So we have about $1.5 million in debt. The overwhelming majority of that is the loans on these ambulances and vehicles. And so the goal is to sell these, pay off that $1.5 million in debt, and we believe the sale of these vehicles will be more than enough to pay for that.
New Chapel attorneys ask for and receive bankruptcy protection from a federal judge. Creditors demanding to be paid are on hold for the moment so New Chapel can get its house in order, pay its remaining employees, and pay the bills as it transports patients in convalescent care.
Our company is all about trying to do some good. Obviously, we're not a 911 provider anymore. We're doing something different, but we want to protect people, we want to serve people, and help our friends and neighbors.
The next step will be selling off over $1 million worth of vehicles. Attorneys are hopeful the judge will allow that to happen sometime by mid-September. David Mattingly, Wave News.
Appreciate David's report right there. As we're going to head into the second half of tonight's edition of Wave Extra, some mix of sports and interesting, fun, cool stories, ending things on a, we'll say a positive or hopeful note, just something to look forward to or to mull over, think about as we head into the weekend. So I hope you stick around. We're going to take another quick break, and we will be right back. Welcome back, folks, at 8:28 tonight on Wave Extra for your Friday. A reminder, as I started out tonight's little segment, this is a view from the KYTC network of cameras, and I believe that's another refreshed look. I don't know how recent that might be, but it is a different frame. And as a reminder, we've been talking about it, letting you know just to be prepared as we kind of wrap up Friday night and go about our weekends. Hospital Curve, so the section of Interstate 65 closed to traffic, southbound traffic, so construction crews can do the work below, fix some joints, tackle some pothole issues that have popped up in this stretch of the road, at least frequently enough to warrant these kind of repairs, and that's going to be the case. So closed right now, going to be that way, I-65 southbound from now until Monday at 5 in the morning. Anybody coming in from Indiana, you're going to have to pick from either moving where you need to go on I-64 or I-71. Find the detour, plan ahead, think about it, what that perimeter looks like that police have set up, or for crews to do their work safely. I have not gotten a closer look at that yet. We'll see if we can get a better view as the sun sets. But just a heads up, right now, Hospital Curve, I-65 closed, and we will keep tabs on the viewpoint from there. And as crews just do the work they need to do moving through the weekend. So as I told you, we're discussing kind of, some fun local things. We'll start with the local thing first here in town for us at Wave Country. It's a huge week, actually, when you're talking in the world of soccer. And I believe Dusty Baker had come back and did some highlights for Racing Louisville. They won the Women's Cup tournament down in Brazil, or against the Brazilian team. So again, a repeat, consistent success for them. More hardware to add to the trophy room, and as we're talking international play, so when it comes to club football, several international teams have been making their way to Louisville for some what might be very exciting exhibitions. And for those in the know, different countries from Europe, so you're talking in the UK, in Germany, Spanish clubs. So that's an interesting perspective, and broadening this to a much wider audience. And Dusty got to take a look at some of the action, at least on the practice pitch today. So these are the guests: the German club Eintracht Frankfurt. I say that 3 times fast. I still love saying the name out loud. So the club's made its way out here for a second consecutive year, representing the Bundesliga from Germany, going up against Lou City Tuesday. So imagine the crowd coming to Lynn Family Stadium. This is part of an Adidas U.S. tour. Huge get for the city of Louisville, perhaps presenting the city with a chance to see the best of international play, get a taste of what that's really like.
You know, I think it's a testament to the support we had at the game, more than 10,000 people, the facilities that they're able to use here, and just our hospitality. We try to make this a great experience, and certainly Louisville's central location doesn't hurt. So a club can come and kind of headquarter here and then say, well, we'd like to go play a game in Philadelphia like Frankfurt's doing, or in the case of Aston Villa, that'll be here tomorrow. They're in Nashville, so the central location, I think, has really paid off as well to make big games like this happen.
Could be a hub for the future, would be interesting to see. So both Eintracht and Lou City are heading to pitch tomorrow at 7. And as for Frankfurt, they're going to face the English Premier League's Aston Villa at Lynn Family Stadium. Here on Wave, Lou City will head to Lexington SC. So a lot to discuss when it comes to busy soccer weekend for us in Louisville, Kentucky. Moving that video ahead. All right. So this is now going from the soccer pitch to Up in the Stars. Wanted to show you something I thought was pretty cool. A new NASA probe showing us humanity's closest ever pictures of the sun. Dan Smith brought these images in this week's Moment of Science. Check it out.
December 24th, 2024, a Christmas Eve to remember for NASA scientists involved with one of the agency's hottest projects yet. But let's first go back some years to 2018.
Liftoff of the mighty Delta IV Heavy rocket with NASA's Parker Solar Probe.
The Parker Solar Probe was 1,500 pounds of ambition when it launched from Florida on a 7-year mission to touch the sun. The goal was to have the probe orbit 24 times using Venus for a gravity assist to get closer and closer with each pass. A 4.5-inch thick carbon composite shield keeps its instruments protected from up to 2,500 degree temperatures, and even being a few degrees of angle off would spell disaster. The probe does employ solar panels for power, which also tuck in behind the shadow of the shield so they don't get too much of a good thing with 5.5 million watts worth of sunlight. In fact, the shield's so efficient, the back of the probe stays at a mere 90 degrees, letting the probe become a modern-day Icarus without becoming a, well, modern-day Icarus. What about the sun itself? Well, the surface runs around 10,000 degrees, yet its corona can run at nearly 2 million degrees. Maybe because of how the sun's magnetic fields can trap particles trying to escape, letting those near-surface temps soar way higher than the surface itself. That's one of the weird things the Parker mission hopes to gain some insight toward, which brings us back to Christmas Eve. Recently, NASA announced the probe had indeed made its closest pass, beaming back these images from just 3.8 million miles off the sun's surface, or about 96% the distance between us and our nearest star. It also set a record for the fastest man-made object ever at 430,000 miles per hour. That would get you from New York to LA in 23 seconds. The camera attached to the probe more or less rides side saddle and doesn't look at the sun directly. You see those curls and flares going left to right? Well, that's all part of the solar wind that can spread out in all directions, and Whisper here managed to spot 3 of these coronal mass ejections interacting with each other. The probe had already found zigzagging magnetic fields bending back on themselves, raising more questions about that sizzling corona. The solar wind eventually causes auroras for us Earthlings once those charged particles are directed into the poles, but can also affect power grids and unprotected satellites, not to mention unprotected astronauts. Researchers hope this footage can help with space weather prediction and develop a greater understanding of that life-giving, hydrogen-fusing enigma some 93 million miles away. For this week's Moment of Science, I'm Dan Smith.
Fascinating to say the least, just for reference, in my years of covering and reporting news, just the investment that has gone into projects involved with NASA, stories I've done with the James Webb Telescope, and just the power, the technology that goes in to just get us, an inch by inch, a foot closer to capturing these images. It's certainly something to behold, and what those stories and what the reporting, the discovery is involved in that as well. All right, folks, one more time after the break, we're keeping going with part of a new series we're doing on Wave News. It's called What's Good. It's a fun story of overcoming what could be some pitfalls if you're familiar with the world of live theater and how sometimes what can go wrong will go wrong, but learning how to improvise and adapt will be something we found out and wanted to share with you. So we will be back one more time after the break here on Wave Extra. Here we are, 8:38 on Friday's Wave Extra. We're kind of talking some amazing discoveries of stories to wrap up our work week heading into the weekend. And so we're now coming back down from outer space into old ancient history. In fact, it was a discovery of remains of a centuries-old knight in Europe. Not just what was found, what was left of him, but where these archaeologists found him. Jeremy Roth has this, and today's Take a Look at this.
The fascinating news of a medieval knight's full skeleton found buried beneath the side of a former Polish ice cream parlor gives new meaning to a scoop. According to the Polish archaeological firm Archaeoscan, the initial discovery of an ornate medieval tombstone was made at the site of the former city center of Gdansk, which has been under excavation since 2023. It was found under the site of a popular former ice cream parlor that had operated there since 1962 before closing. When researchers removed the limestone tombstone, which depicted a carved image of a knight, it revealed a startlingly well-preserved adult male skeleton with an uplifted sword, believed to be from the 13th or 14th century. The archaeological discovery is being called one of the most important in Poland in recent years, and experts plan further analysis, which could include a 3D scan of the slab, genetic testing of the skeleton, and possibly even a facial reconstruction based on the skull. In Spain, the 4,000-year-old remains of a human rib found is believed to have belonged to someone shot in the back with an arrow. That's because the arrowhead was found still lodged in the bone. Experts with the Catalan Institute of Human Paleoecology and Social Evolution say the remains show signs of bone regeneration around the embedded flint projectile, leading them to believe the victim may have survived the brutal attack from behind, but could have later succumbed to death by infection or some other way. They say the fascinating find in a prehistoric tomb in the Pyrenees Mountains offers an unprecedented glimpse of the savage conflicts that may have occurred between ancient communities in the area. For Take a Look at This, I'm Jeremy Roth.
Yeah, the fascinating history and what at least the biologists and archaeologists will glean from this will be something to see. And one more thing tonight, it's just a continuation in a series we're starting here at Wave News. It's called What's Good. I want to walk you through this initiative, just highlighting some things that happened to some really interesting good people in our community and them sharing it with us and just giving them a place to show us what it was like. And so you might know in the world of theater, if that's something you were ever a part of, but the phrase is the show must go on. That was apparently true for a recent Kentucky Shakespeare performance. What we mean by that is, as we take you to the scene of it all, during a Wednesday night performance of Hamlet in Central Park, the power for the players went out. So no music, no sound, most of the lights gone, but the audience still hung around. Some apparently even pitched in themselves to save the day. The audience just moved up closer to the stage, turning on flashlights, so at least give the actors something as a reference point, brighten up the stage. And then the actors just used their instruments, which are their voices, to finish out Act 1.
But I haven't seen anything like that. It really kind of reminded me of the moment of triumph in October 2020 when we presented in the midst of COVID, Shakespeare in the Parking Lot, a drive-in, and everyone watched Macbeth from inside their cars with their headlights. For us, it was sort of that, really powerful moment of community again, and just great kindness and generosity of our audience, and just a triumph of the spirit from our performers and our crew.
All in all, there were around 500 people who were in the audience for Wednesday's performance. Video of the Unplugged performance apparently has been making the rounds as well on social media, so you see how to adapt and improvise in the heat of the moment right there. By the way, the Kentucky Shakespeare Festival does continue on select nights from now through August 10th. I'll be, hoping that they're staying hydrated and cool as best as they can given the heat. We just can't quite seem to escape even as we move into the weekend. We're talking these 90s, hoping for at least a break to come down into the 80s soon. I know talking to Kevin Harned, he let us know that was coming up relatively soon, as I'm fumbling my highlighter there. So tonight, Ryan Hoke is going to check in with us on Wave News at 11. Let us know if things change, how soon or how much later that's all going to progress. So hope you stick around for us. I will have a special report I've been working on for folks kind of driving up and down Dixie Highway all the time, but this was a visit to a car dealership that's been dealing with some pesky behavior from thieves and vandals, so that's a report I'll have for you tonight. Logan Perone, Julia Richardson, their own investigations and reports, that'll all be there for you tonight on Wave News at 11. As a reminder, you can always check out the latest information updates. There's Ryan's picture right there, but just big stories, headlines there for you to scan and get the latest information on wave3.com. Push alerts from the free to download Wave News app. And as always, appreciate you connecting with us on Wave Extra. This is in the Wave Now studio. So if you're joining us from Wave Now on your smart TV or your smart devices from home, Facebook, X, Twitch, YouTube, always appreciate you spending a little bit of your evenings with us. We're going to wrap things up. Appreciate you. Hope everyone enjoys the weekend. Stay cool and hydrated.